might have been poor, but there was a lot of hump into everything we did.
Believed in yourself so much that you could accomplish the unbelievable.
I want to spend the rest of my life doing what I really like to do and not what I should do.
That's what I'm talking about. Good.
Our history matters. Our history is American history.
My name is Maria Moreno. I'm a mother of 12 children. I've been a worker all my life. I'm an American citizen, and I'm talking for justice.
3,000 workers were hungry, and the food was sitting in the warehouse.
How do you think that I feel seeing my son blind only because we don't got nothing to eat?
That's my mother.
Where is the justice in the United States, the richest country in the world?
These are young people that are going through struggles that young people shouldn't have to deal with, period. You know, they're up against a lot, and I think they get judged too easily.
Outsiders see my community as like, it's okay for them to drop out, they're used to it.
Pushed out, not dropped out, they're getting pushed out the educational system.
Wait a minute, what are we doing wrong as a system to address this issue?
We're not here to give you the power.
Good job, brother.
You already got it.
100 years after the massacre, descendants began learning the true story of Porvenir.
Mexican residents were fearful that they would be associated with banditry.
15 men, innocent, some of them U.S. citizens, were taken out in the hours of darkness, lined up against a bluff, and executed. We know that there were Rangers. We know the U.S. Army was there, but who did the most effective cover-up?
He never told his family what happened at Porvenir because he feared for his life.
And now our family has this story to pass down to the next generation.
Here I am putting on a play for you, and if you want to boo me, great, and I might boo you back, but it's all done within a context of love.
But I'd never run into anyone like Grohl.
Puerto Ricans coming to New York City were not doing Shakespeare. They were the Sharks and the Jets.
I started realizing I could bring my own Puerto Rican background to Shakespeare.
He was proud of being puertorriqueño.
We were not considered part of the American citizenship. They thought of us as the other.
It's no longer you or I. It's you and I.
You deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve to get an education.
Man, how long has it been?
If we don't remember where we came from, we will forget who we are.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Estamos en vivo desde Puerto Rico con California. Saludos, Erika, y saludos a Luis Ortiz.
Hola.
Nos une también en esta conversación nuestro querido compañero Juan Carlos García desde Puerto Rico. Los saludamos desde la Asociación de Documentalistas. Un placer tenerlos con nosotros.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Hola. I want to present, hola. We're going to be talking in English. Questions can be done in Spanish, and we will also try to answer in Spanish any need or anything people cannot understand from my English. Let us know. So we have Luis Ortiz and Erika Alarcón from the Latino Public Broadcast. Here, hi, with the nice mission to tell us more about your overview and your mission on the open calls. We are today to talk about the 2020 funding cycle on public media content and okay, everybody's okay. We are also waiting for Adriana Bosch, a renowned producer and director on the social themes. She might come at some point. So welcome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Gracias, Llaima. Gracias, Juan Carlos. Y saludos a todos de la isla, de Puerto Rico. I am very happy to be here and participate. Both myself and Erika, who I want to reach out to the filmmakers in Puerto Rico who are very interested in getting support for the projects or the films that they're working on. And so I just wanted to take some time to discuss our organization and the upcoming calls that we're going to have that are eligible to everybody in Puerto Rico as well as on the mainland. But Latino Public Broadcasting is a organization that's in its 22nd year this year. We were founded in 1998. Edward James Olmos is our co-founder, and we were put together to support the Latino community and support Latino stories on PBS and public media. We are doing so by supporting independent filmmakers. We fund projects that are Latino themed and that are by Latino filmmakers, and we support it at the research and development stage, the production stage, and the post-production stage. And through that, we follow along projects and then distribute them out onto PBS and public media. We've given out to now, in the 22 years, over $13.5 million to independent producers, and we've delivered over 250 hours of programming to PBS. So we're very happy to have been supporting, and we want to continue supporting. We want to see more projects from Puerto Rico. So I wanted to just take a moment to pass it over to Erika, just so that she can make a quick introduction of herself as well.
Hi, I'm Erika. I'm the program coordinator here at LPB. I help coordinate production materials for the organization, and I also oversee and create our bi-monthly newsletter, which is EVOS. I also assist with the annual funding cycle with prepping and organizing all the application materials, and I will be the point person here at LPB if you have any questions regarding our open call.
Thank you, Erika. So I just wanted to quickly talk in regards to what we do and what the different options are for the Public Media Content Fund. Again, as I mentioned, we fund at all stages. For the Public Media Content Fund, which is our main funding initiative, that's funded through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. We fund at the R&D stage for between $5,000 to $25,000 towards your project. For the production stage, we fund from $5,000 to $100,000 for your project, and the same for post-production. The only difference with the Public Media Content Fund, which is the fund that's been around for these 22 years, is that we also fund short digital content that we are looking at primarily for online distribution through pbs.org, and this has been primarily through digital narrative shorts that filmmakers from all across have also been submitting to us, including a narrative project that was filmed and shot in Puerto Rico with Frances Lascelles, who I think is pretty well known in the island, and she helped Fernanda Rossi, who was a documentary consultant but also filmmaker, and they worked together to produce that project there, called Clara como el agua. In addition to that, we have a relatively new fund that we call the Current Issues Fund, and that is looking at long-form documentary projects that are either 60 minutes to 90 minutes. And that is primarily looking for films that are dealing with social issues. We call it the Current Issues Fund because we like to see topics that are covered that are relatively sort of hot button issues that are being discussed and talked about, in the nation. And this could be from issues that are happening in Puerto Rico, especially after Hurricane Maria, and what's happened to the island and the rebuilding. We did fund a project that's going to air later this year on POV that takes a look at that. But we also just funded a project about the healthcare system in Puerto Rico by Patricia Benave, who's based there now, and it's a look at how the healthcare system works and doesn't work in different places in the island. So those are different issues that have become sort of important and are good examples of what we like to see for the Current Issues Fund. In terms of the Public Media Content Fund, we're looking at different stories from the arts to science to history to personal storytelling, or even to mix genre. So it just depends on what the story is, and I think we're looking for very strong stories, and we like to say we want to see untold stories, or stories that have not been seen or reported on, or given light to, and stories with strong characters. I think that's also very important to know. If it's a character-driven story, those tend to do well. But at the same time, another good example is the biography on Raul Juliá, who for us should have been done several years ago. But finally, we were able to get it together and get that story out. We also have the biography of Rita Moreno coming to PBS, in the next year or so. So we're excited about that, and look forward to sharing that story with everybody as well. But those are the two main funds that we have. It's a funding initiative that we have once a year. This year we pushed the date back just a little to July 1st to give people more time to apply because of what was happening with COVID and the quarantine. It is a very competitive process, so we invite producers from across the U.S. And we get about 100 proposals per year. But out of those proposals, we only fund about 10%. So it's important to note that there's a limited amount of funds that we can do, and it's the average amount, I'd say, is about a $50,000 total commitment towards your project. The other point I just wanted to make, that's important to know, is that our funding that comes in is funding towards your project, and it's considered income. It's not considered a grant. And you receive this funding in exchange for signing a licensing agreement to give your project distribution on PBS or within public media for a 4-year period. And that includes, that's only for the United States, and then its territories. And I don't think that there is a PBS station still functioning in Puerto Rico. I know Sistema TV was the last one, and after the hurricane, they were working on bringing back their antenna. So I'm not sure exactly where they're at, or if they're coming back. But I know that they were the last source and wanted to continue to support PBS-driven projects out into the island. That gives you sort of a basic idea on the two funds. I wanted to give Erika an opportunity to talk about the application process and what you want to think of and all of that. So I can go ahead and turn it over to Erika.
Hi. So I'm going to go give an overview of applying and what you should be expecting. And then after that, I'll go over the do's and don'ts. So the LPB application is programmed through an online submission software called Submittable. So you will be required to make an account in order to apply. You will be able to find the submittable link on our application page on the LPB website. So, and I cannot express enough. Please be sure to read thoroughly our guidelines and frequently asked questions for both current issues and the Public Media Content Fund. It's important that you make sure to read them over so that you don't have any problems. On the application page on Submittable, you will find thorough guidelines and instructions on how to make your submission. So please be sure to read the instructions before you make your account and apply. So we have 6 sections on the application that needs to be fulfilled. So I'm just going to go over them briefly. First, we will have you fill out the required fields in the online application form that's on that same page. So you'll fill that out, and then you'll also be required to upload 5 documents or PDFs. So second, you'll download, complete, and upload the budget summary form in either a Word doc or a PDF. 3, download, complete, and upload the application summary form in either a Word doc or PDF. And then 4, complete and upload your project description. 5, you'll upload your detailed project budget. And then the last document is your key personnel. So after that, you will submit everything. Make sure you have all the documents on there. I know that it's a requirement that you upload each section. So if you don't have something in that section, it won't let you submit. So just keep in mind of that. And then also it's good to keep in mind that the review process takes about 4 to 5 months. The final selections will be announced at that time, so just please be patient. And then I'm going to go over some do's and don'ts. So I'm going to go over the do's. Number 1, please be sure to read over our guidelines, frequently asked questions before applying. It's important to go over them carefully before filling out the application. 2, if you're applying for the Current Issues Fund, you will be required to answer additional questions at the bottom of the application summary, so please do not skip these questions. 3, please be sure to use our provided formats for the budget summary and application summary. Please do not upload your own format. 4, if you're providing a visual sample, please be sure to provide a password if the video is password protected. And then lastly, just please be sure to consider the LPB mission and what the program will bring to public television. Just, be sure to ask the question, does your film give a voice and provide a lens to the diverse Latino community? And then for the don'ts, so for number 1, please do not submit student films or projects. 2, do not apply to more than one fund. You may only choose one fund, so please make sure to only click one option. 3, for the key personnel, we don't accept resumes, so please do not upload your resumes. 4, please don't submit extra materials. So this includes letters of recommendation, graphics, or illustrations. The materials will be evaluated on the required materials only. And then lastly, do not delete or edit the questions in the PDF or Word documents that are provided by LPB. So yeah, that covers everything. I don't know, Luis, you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that maybe there'll be some few questions that come up during this.
If you do have questions, I am the point person to contact if you have any questions, and my email is on the submittable page and then also on the application page.
Okay, perfect. So Adriana is coming.
Okay.
I can see her, and in order that she can come in, I have to go out, okay? But I'm gonna be here on the technical issues. So we want Adriana to talk a bit more about what was her experience with LPB and,
yes,
as an experienced producer, how to do it. So not leaving you alone. as an experienced producer.
Okay, unfortunately I have to come in through my phone. Hi everyone.
Adriana.
I'm going nuts trying to come on. It's
Well, I think we'll wait for her to come back in and then see if she can connect to talk a little bit about her experience. Adriana Bosch is a Cuban American filmmaker who has been working in the PBS system. She's based in Miami, but she works back and forth between Miami and Boston, and she's been producing for PBS for the entire career. She's back. Okay, I think she dropped out again. But she has produced quite a number of films for American Experience, and she was the executive producer on the Latino Americans, which was a 6-hour series that we co-produced with the PBS station in Washington D.C. And she put together a team to execute the entire series along with Jeff Bieber at WIDA in Washington D.C. But she's currently working on a project that we funded her on about the Cuban writer Jose Lezama Lima, and we're hoping to bring that to PBS in 2021. So she's been working with many other independents and serving as a mentor in many different ways. So I thought it would be great to hear from her and she can give her perspective on what the process has been like for her. And she's back, Adriana. Can you hear her?
I'm back. I'm seeing myself twice here, which is like very confusing. Essentially, I couldn't hook up through my computer, so I decided to go through my phone. So here
I can hear you well now.
Okay, perfect. Hi everyone, welcome, and hopefully I'm not too disheveled after all that. I kind of had to wrestle this, and it shows. But anyway,
you look great. You look great.
Yeah, right.
You look great. Hi.
Okay, so I heard everything everyone said. I was actually listening, and I couldn't join. But now that I can join, I'll give you my my 2 cents of how it is to apply to Latino Public Broadcasting.
Adriana, do you want to just give a brief overview of what you've done? I don't think I did it justice. So
No, I am what people refer to now as a veteran producer, and I have done, I don't know, I like to say something in the neighborhood of 14 to television shows, and probably a lot more hours than that. Mostly for American Experience and for WIDA, WGBH and WIDA. Lately, I've worked independently, and I have worked very closely with Latino Public Broadcasting. I've also been on the other side. I've reviewed a lot of... would you rather I speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Okay. Por el otro lado, yo he revisado mucho trabajo que ha llegado de solicitudes a Latino Public Broadcasting, y mi experiencia, viene de los dos lados. Yo entiendo como solicitante y como alguien que ha revisado las propuestas. Lo primero, yo creo que es muy importante, es darse cuenta de que uno está entrando en un ambiente muy competitivo. La primera vez, yo le contaba a Luis hoy que la primera vez que yo hice una solicitud de Latino Public Broadcasting para un development grant fue en el 2006 para mi grant de Lezama Lima, y ni siquiera I didn't even clear the first round. Me votaron enseguida de allí. Y es que y hay que entender el proceso, y hay que darse cuenta de que es un proceso muy competitivo y que hay que entrar con la mayor preparación posible. Mi experiencia con Lezama fue una experiencia muy larga. Me tomó muchos años, y yo creo que parte del problema es el mismo que ustedes enfrentan generalmente. Las historias de uno, del país de uno, las historias de la historia de uno, son difíciles de contar para un público general. Nosotros estamos siempre en una minoría, dentro del público en general y dentro del público latino también. No sé cuántos puertorriqueños la diáspora cuenta en este momento. Los cubanos contamos, somos 2.3 millones. No nos ve nadie en Cuba, desde luego. Así que tenemos un mercado cortito y siempre hemos tenido que proyectarnos mucho más allá de nuestra experiencia para poder tener un público en nuestro trabajo. Eso ha sido desde el principio. Por eso ustedes ven que Gloria Estefan hizo Conga, que todas las proyecciones siempre han sido tratar de salir. Yo creo que es lo más importante. Uno se enamora de las historias de uno, y en realidad las historias de uno son maravillosas y tienen mucha resonancia, pero siempre hay que mantener firme la vista en cómo es que nosotros podemos abrir nuestras historias y mirarlas de una manera que signifiquen algo para el resto del público, y no solamente para el público hispano en general, sino para el público norteamericano en su totalidad, o para el público latinoamericano también. Yo creo que la globalización de la televisión y de nuestras vidas en sí permite un campo un poco más abierto en términos de cómo podemos contar nuestras historias y a quién pueden nuestras historias estar dirigidas. En cuanto a Lezama Lima, yo busqué incesantemente por todos estos años, yo he buscado una manera de proyectar una historia cubana, una historia que cubre un tiempo corto dentro de la historia de la revolución, y proyectar dentro de esa historia lo más posible valores universales y también conexiones internacionales, conexiones de mi historia en particular al resto de América Latina, conexiones de mi historia en particular a movimientos literarios y críticos dentro de los Estados Unidos. Cuestión de que esa historia tuviera una relevancia un poco más grande de algo que pasó en una isla hace mucho tiempo. Y yo creo que eso para todos nosotros es algo fundamental. Y ese es mi primer como cineasta, como documentalista, eso es lo que yo creo es muy importante para nosotros. No tenemos verdaderamente un público que existe al que podemos ir y tirar nuestras historias y decir, bueno, son 20 millones de personas, si lo ven un 10%, pues ya, esos son 2 millones, y si lo ven un 2%, un 1% es 200,000. No, nosotros no tenemos ese lujo. Nosotros tenemos que tratar de proyectarnos lo más ampliamente posible para poder captar segmentos del mercado que no tienen, que no son exactamente el nuestro. Eso yo lo he aprendido muy bien con este documental de José Lezama Lima, que por cierto ya, gracias a Dios, terminé. Y que Luis y Sandy me han ayudado mucho. Esa es otra cosa que ustedes siempre deben de mirar Latino Public Broadcasting, no solamente como una agencia, un lugar de funding agency, pero también as a help place, a place que puede ayudarlos a buscar otros recursos, donde pueden recurrir en busca de un mentor, de alguien que los ayude, de dónde más pueden encontrar dinero. O sea, Latino Public Broadcasting es un recurso total, no solamente es un lugar donde se va a buscar el dinero, sino que ellos van a ayudar a un proyecto a continuar y hasta en lo que se pueda. En cuanto a qué proyectos yo he visto que tienen más éxito en llamar la atención de un reviewer, espérense a ver si esto se me fue. ¿Ustedes me pueden ver?
Yeah.
De un reviewer. Yo creo que lo más importante es la claridad. Yo creo que el que un lector pueda mirar un documento y en el poco tiempo que tenemos para mirarlo, porque nadie se va a pasar más de, ¿qué yo diría? 6 horas, 3, 5 horas mirando un proyecto o hasta menos para calificarlo o descalificarlo. ese es el tiempo que ustedes tienen para convencer a la persona que lo está leyendo. Yo tengo que saber enseguida de qué se trata el proyecto, cuál es el resumen, cuál es el treatment y cómo lo van a llevar a cabo. Eso es fundamental, la claridad de la presentación y que cada cosita, el core application con la que se funciona hoy en día, te da esas categorías sencillas. No confundan una categoría con otra. Summary quiere decir resumen, treatment quiere decir treatment, y artistic approach quiere decir artistic approach, y una cosa tiene que ir con lo que piden.
Adriana, do you want to talk a little bit about creating a film for an international audience versus an American audience or the PBS audience?
Creating a film for an international audience quiere decir que tienes que tener tu oído puesto en las facetas internacionalizadas o internacionales de tu historia. Yo creo que eso es algo es muy posible. Si tú haces una película sobre la independencia de Puerto Rico, busca un lente que te pueda meter, qué sé yo, algo de José Martí, o que pueda hablar algo de Sandino en Nicaragua, que el lente del imperialismo americano, no solamente dirigido a Puerto Rico, sino dirigido al resto de América Latina y del Caribe. Es mantener la noción siempre de que los canales de distribución, ¿dónde va a acabar tu película? Tu película va a acabar en PBS, pero también tu película puede acabar en un distribuidor internacional que te puede llevar la película a mercados en Latinoamérica y a mercados en Europa. Y es importante mantener esa perspectiva. ¿Qué posibilidades hay dentro de esos mercados para la proyección de tu documental? Y incluir algo de prensa. Yo, por ejemplo, en Llaima, yo sabía que yo no podía quedarme en Cuba. Entonces, ¿qué participación tuvo, por ejemplo, Julio Cortázar en mi historia? Y yo hago hincapié en la participación de Julio Cortázar. Julio Cortázar es una figura muy conocida tanto en Europa como en Latinoamérica, no solo en Argentina, sino en México, donde quiera. Pues entonces, ¿cuál es el papel de Julio Cortázar? ¿Cuál es el papel del boom de la novela latinoamericana? ¿Qué reseñas pueden haber salido en un periódico norteamericano sobre Paradiso, la novela de Llaima? ¿Dónde fue que fue mejor recibida? Bueno, empezó por México, mira qué suerte, ya ahí tengo un piecito dentro del mercado mexicano, sin alterar la realidad y sin exagerar, tratar de aprovechar todas esas oportunidades que se pueden dar, que conecte tu historia a la experiencia generalizada de los latinos, no solamente en Estados Unidos, sino por toda América. Y yo creo que eso es como yo, por lo menos así fue como yo he tratado de internacionalizar un poco el documental de Llaima, y mencionando a Sartre, y mencionando a Simone de Beauvoir, y mencionando montones de cosas que mencionaba antes y que he tenido que cortar. Pero como quiera que sea, tratar de que se sienta siempre que uno está haciendo algo que tiene una relevancia más allá, como digo yo, of a place far away that happened long time ago. Algo que tenga una relevancia mayor para todo el mundo.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation.
Ya yo perdí el resumen ahí, me extendí demasiado, tengo que echar para atrás y editar. Pero bueno.
Estábamos, can you hear me? ¿Me escuchas?
Sí, cómo no.
Ok. La parte también nos interesa cómo ha sido tu experiencia cuando has producido ya pensando en el mercado de Estados Unidos. ¿Cómo ha sido tu acercamiento como documentalista en esos casos? Porque entendimos muy bien la parte internacional, que es en la que está el proyecto de Llaima, pero me parece nos gustaría también saber cómo te acercaste al proyecto, cuando haces un proyecto para el mercado latino en Estados Unidos.
Es un poco difícil hacer un proyecto para el mercado latino en Estados Unidos. Yo creo que romper con esas... déjame echar atrás y decirte cómo nosotros hicimos Latino Americans. Latino Americans era un proyecto que fue hecho, una serie que fue hecha, y también Latin Music USA, que fue hecha para que verdaderamente se afianzara dentro del mercado latino en Estados Unidos. Uno de los grandes propósitos era enseñar y demostrar la diversidad de la experiencia latina dentro de los Estados Unidos. Yo creo que el enfocarse demasiado en el mercado latino dentro de los Estados Unidos para nosotros, para los proyectos caribeños, es casi tan difícil hablarle a un mexicano como hablarle a un gringo de la situación en Puerto Rico. Esa es mi experiencia. Y no te estoy hablando solamente de Puerto, estoy hablando como cubana. Hay unas demarcaciones bastante fuertes, culturales, históricas, entonces hay que buscar, yo creo que comunalidades de nuestra experiencia, como en Latino Americans, por ejemplo, nosotros buscamos cuál es la comunalidad de nuestras experiencias. Bueno, la historia de los Estados Unidos, donde a la cual se tuvieron que enfrentar los mexicanos, se tuvieron que enfrentar los puertorriqueños, se tuvieron que enfrentar los cubanos y se han tenido que enfrentar todo el mundo. Manifest Destiny, inmigración, World War II, todas esas experiencias que nosotros compartimos, que vienen de la intersección nuestra con los Estados Unidos. Yo creo que eso es un lente que ayuda a limar las diferencias y a aumentar la comunalidad, porque nosotros todos hemos tenido experiencias comunes dentro de los Estados Unidos, experiencia de inmigración, experiencia de racismo, de discriminación, experiencia de tratar de llegar de obtener el elusivo sueño americano, experiencias con el imperialismo norteamericano, y la participación en las guerras siempre ha sido algo que ha sido una experiencia común entre los latinos. Yo creo que mirar esas experiencias en común y tratar de conectarse de esa forma, yo creo que eso baja la frontera, eso disminuye las diferencias y empezamos a ver que sí, que tenemos cosas en común porque hemos enfrentado muchos de los mismos problemas, aunque haya muchas diferencias culturales y haya diferencias históricas y de todo tipo. Nuestra relación con los Estados Unidos y las dificultades de ser un latino, ya sea un cubano, puertorriqueño, mexicano, en Estados Unidos es algo que nosotros tenemos en común. Y ese yo creo que es una manera de poder llegar a los otros latinos.
Muy bien.
En cuanto a Llaima, eso fue más difícil. Ya eso es otra historia. Yo creo que con latinoamericanos lo logramos, con Latin Music USA lo logramos, y con otras cosas se ha logrado. Con Llaima fue algo más complicado, porque es una experiencia que se inserta más dentro de la experiencia internacional, dentro de la experiencia de los países latinoamericanos con el mundo, que la experiencia común entre los latinoamericanos.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think those are all great points, Adriana, and it's in considering that we have to serve the PBS audience, first with what we're funding, but we're also serving the Latino audience at the same time, and finding those commonalities or the universal themes that we'll come across. And I think that's very important when you're putting together your proposal and thinking of those, and planning to submit to us.
Yeah, I mean, finding not only the common themes and common history. They're two different things, and I think that both are possible. Common themes and common history, and highlight those en la sección donde dice relevance of your project. I mean, ahí es where you can go and highlight some of these commonalities that will help us serve the audiences that the many audiences, because I think that you have to keep an eye when you do your project. Yes, it is a PBS project, but it can be so much more.
Right.
I mean, there's so many possibilities. How do you do a project that is to the taste of PBS and to the mission of PBS, but at the same time you do a project that can take advantage of the many opportunities that are open to you in terms of distribution, because we all want our work to be seen as widely as it is possible. And we don't, and frankly, unless you're rich, you're not here, you're here to at least, if not make a decent living, to survive. Because I think this is, if you want to make a real decent living, find something else to do. Documentaries isn't it. I mean, that's clearly, I think I can tell you after many, many years, that it's a very...
It's hard to be an independent producer. I agree.
Si estás empezando a trabajar, si estás empezando tu carrera, no, siempre ten algo más, y yo nunca aprendí eso, siempre ten algo más que te pueda sostener, porque a menos que tengas varios proyectos, a menos que tengas muchas cosas al mismo tiempo, the funding, the road to funding a documentary no es sencillo. No es fácil, es un camino largo y un camino arduo. Y, algunas veces es difícil, pero se logra. Porque miren cuántos documentales no hay. Cuántos documentales no se hacen y cuántos documentales buenísimos no se hacen. No hacen los independientes.
Maybe we can talk about the Public Media Content Fund and what do you expect from a producer in those formats. In that short digital content, maybe Luis, you can talk about it, or Erika, both of you maybe can say something about that.
Sure, I think for the Public Media Content Fund, we're primarily looking at a long-form documentary that's going to be for a television broadcast with a small streaming window that carries over along with the broadcast. It's usually about 90 days or so, around there, and that's also within the initial from the initial broadcast date. There's I think so many stories that we're when it comes down to it, we're looking for a compelling, powerful story that we may not have seen on public television or anywhere else. We're very much looking at at underrepresented stories. And this could be something from the island. I remember seeing a film by one of the filmmakers based on the island about Filiberto, and that could have been a great project that would have had a nice window on public television or PBS. But it could be anything from social issue, like I mentioned, of the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, to we haven't seen a biography on Jose Feliciano, or any of the one thing that I think, like Cuba, Puerto Rico has so much talent, I think, and so within the arts that have not been explored, and stories haven't been told. And I know Adriana did explore quite a bit through Latin Music USA, and she can speak to that as well. But even when I watched those segments, I even got into the whole reggaeton movement. There were so many small stories within Latin Music USA that could be their own hours. Their own films all together. But it could be things that are happening locally that are also happening in the rest of the country. So it serves as a microcosm to those particular issues. But it could be from the arts, or it could be from a science angle as well. How Puerto Rico has come together to rebuild itself after Hurricane Maria. That was very interesting, and all the technology that came into that. So there's so many different angles that we can take a look at. With regards to the short content, I think we're looking at stories that are also cultural and can be educational. We've dealt from issues dealing with bullying that's become prominent in the last several years, to LGBT stories, to stories about the elderly population and experiences that they're going through. So we're trying to see all spectrums in that way, and also have a new arena for this content that we don't really see anywhere else. And PBS has been very good about sharing the short content that way, and it's been throughout the year. So that's been also exciting.
Luis, when you put out your RFPs, would it be helpful to suggest some of the topics that Latino Public Broadcasting is interested in covering, or do you do it and I haven't seen it?
We talk in our content priorities. We talk about the general areas, from the arts to music and that type of thing. Last year we included the election, and we wanted to try to highlight upcoming election issues that were going to be happening. So we do have an election special coming out this year, but it depends on those types of on what's happening within the country to see what it is we want to highlight. But it's pretty open, and that's why we call it open call, to see what the different ideas are out there, and what stories maybe we haven't heard of or learned about. I think the story of Jose Lezama Lima is a great example of that. A great a writer who has not had the recognition within the U.S. that he should, after all the impact that he's had within the literary movement. So I think that's important.
And also the gay aspect of the whole story, and all kinds of, it's also hit with the trend toward authoritarianism now, and I keep looking for those intersections. I think, for example, if you're interested in stories about culture and music, and no one has done a story on Jose Feliciano, that's that's something maybe too late for somebody to start thinking in those ways. But I think that to point out, you have a wealth of suggestions that I think I think those are very helpful. It's very hard, when you've been around a while, and maybe to come up to actually have that kind of widespread panorama of what stories haven't been told and what stories should be told, because it also has to do with how you know the traffic. You're in a way that what where things can go, who might be interested. You know, you have all those connections with American masters.
Right.
Maybe
Well,
the strands, maybe American experience.
As Adriana mentioned, I mean, in that way, we become a funder of a project, but it's much more than just a relationship of a funder. We become a gatekeeper, and I always like to describe it as it's sort of a marriage, during the project, because we're there with you the entire way, fighting to get the attention the project deserves within the system and during the broadcast. So we're thinking of where do we want to place it, who might be interested in taking it. So it's a relationship that begins at the funding standpoint and then continues, and then once it's done, then we're looking for where we're going to get it placed within the system. Once we get it placed, and we're working on the promotion and the marketing of it onto the system. And now we try to support projects with community engagement as well. So that is another aspect that is supportive of.
But I mean, in a sense, not just encouraging, not saying that you commission stories, because that's not your job.
Right.
But I mean, short of saying we're commissioning this, maybe throw some things out in the air that some people, don't just come into you with the stories out of their minds and hearts, but will be willing to consider something that you think already has built-in possibilities. Because I'm just throwing it out there again. I don't know if I'm exceeding your mission or speaking out of turn.
No,
but
I think it's always good for filmmakers to know what projects work and don't. And I always say, that's why we showcase the Voces reel at the beginning, because it showcased the four stories that were included in this past season, and how different they all are, and what type of stories we're trying to showcase and support, from the arts all the way to social issue to historical stories as well. And you can also take a look at if you go to our website, and you can see everything that we've ever supported in the past, and that's always, I think, a great starting point to see what it is that that's been successful, and what we're funding. And always take a look at what we funded the last year, and see and that's not just for us, that's for any major funder that's out there. If you look at ITVS, or if you look at the NEA, or if you look at the Ford Foundation, and take a look at what they just funded. I think it's important to see what recently worked or what they recently supported. That's always a good indicator as to in what direction they're sort of going. I don't know if you have a different experience with that, Adriana, but feel free to.
I sometimes think that if they supported, they might be changing. If they supported Four of a Kind last year, this year they might be changing their attention a little bit. But that's a great suggestion as you look into what.
Right.
I mean, it's very comforting to think and to know that, for example, this is a story that occurred to me, and I probably would think about it twice again if I because I had no regard whatsoever to where it could go and what it and who. I mean, this was, I felt that after so many years being attentive to what the world needed. I mean, I had earned the luxury of doing what the heck I pleased, and I paid dearly for it. I basically spent what I started in 14 years to get that documentary done. Not that I didn't do a bunch of stuff in the middle, including Latin Music USA and Latinos, plus another documentary and a stint at Univision. But it's you. I think that even if it didn't occur to you to begin with, there's stories out there that really can use your culture, your sensibility, your expertise that you haven't thought about, and that have kind of the possibilities of that story are tremendous. We don't need to always be married to the things that really speak to directly to our hearts as independent producers.
Right.
We can also be looking for opportunities where our expertise and our knowledge can be brought on a subject that is important to our culture, to ourselves, and to and to everyone, and take those on.
Yeah.
That's been just I feel strongly about that. That sometimes.
In the case of Lesama Lima, in the case of Lesama Lima, for example, then you have also the Reinaldo Arenas, who found a huge audience to make even a feature fiction film with his story.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to know when it will work and when it won't. And
it depends on
I'm sure that, for example, in Latin America, Lesama Lima would be something that a very specific sector will be very interested.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, that's something else to think about. What are your assets? What are your assets? When you think about a story, my assets were very simple. I had discovered, not myself, but I have been guided by someone else. Someone gave me a book of letters that the Samalima wrote to his sister, where his entire experience was revealed. And so I had that asset. I was going to make a film based on those letters. What are your assets? Do you have a particular cache of photographs? Do you have a bunch of video that no one has ever seen? Do you have access to an artist? Is somebody, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your cousin, who is famous and will give you accessibility beyond what they can give someone else? What is your and try to really work with those assets, and that, because that makes you unique, is and emphasize that you're coming from having those at hand, and that you are the only person that can make tell this story in the way that should be told, because you're starting from a position of where you've got something that nobody else has. And I think that's another. That's also when you write a request for funding, that's very attractive.
There's a question from Llaima. Llaima is asking at what stage the project should be when you are submitting it to Latino Public Broadcasting.
So
can it be started, or it should be from the very beginning?
It depends. It depends on which fund you're going to be applying to. But if you're applying to the main fund, which is the Public Media Content Fund, you can apply at any stage. So it can be at the development stage, the production stage, or the post-production stage. But we put priority on production and post-production, because we're trying to fund projects that are going to be broadcast sooner. Instead of having a long wait before it's finished. However, when there's a project that really is a very powerful, strong project, and a well-written treatment and a solid budget and just an overall solid project, we'll support the project through R&D. And Lesama Lima, we gave R&D money to. So that's an example of where we've supported at the development stage and also later as well. But if you're applying to the Current Issues Fund, which is the more social issue driven fund, we want to look at films that are either in the production stage or post-production stage. So you should already sort of be starting or have something there. It should already be a developed idea that you've already began production on or ready to get going.
Okay, and for example, when you have I will say something in Spanish.
Yeah.
Todo el que nos esté viendo, siéntanse en la libertad de hacer preguntas, de escribir sus preguntas, de enviarlas para poder comunicarlas. Hasta ahora no hemos recibido preguntas de más allá, así es que por favor, todo el que tenga cualquier duda, cualquier pregunta, haya entrado un poco tarde y quiera clarificar algo, por favor, siéntanse en la libertad de hacerlo.
Hay algo importante que Luis, que para mí fue, que yo creo que es muy importante para cualquiera que está submitting un proyecto. Ya a mí se me olvidan los dos. Voy a ser bilingüe un día de esto, como dicen, en vez de bilingüe.
Okay.
Es que si tú tienes un proyecto y todavía no has empezado a filmar, no tienes nada grabado, no tienes nada hecho, tú tienes tiempo para entregar un clip. No tienes que entregar el clip con la solicitud. O sea, in production, you have some, right, Luis?
Right.
Right. So you can present a project en el 5 de julio y tienes hasta octubre o noviembre para presentar un clip de ese proyecto. Y puedes entonces visualizar y puedes entonces solicitar funding dentro del Content Fund para producción, aunque no tengas nada hecho. Es más difícil, pero lo que sí tienes es que tener una idea muy sólida de lo que vas a hacer. Porque ya...
Okay, tenemos... We have a question here.
I just wanted to make a comment though, because I thought Adriana brought a great point up with regards to the sample, and you don't have to have a sample, when you apply, and if you move on, we have 2 rounds, so if you move on to the second round where we make the final decisions on the projects, we ask for a sample at that point. And the sample is very important to that process, I think, because it's a visual example of what we're going to see, and it's going to set up your story. It should set up your characters. It should let us see what we're going to be making an investment in, and then it can make or break the decision on whether we're going to fund the project or not. So that's important to note as well.
But you don't need a sample for development, for production only, correct?
And you don't have to have a sample for production, but it's
for development.
No, you do not. You do not. Right.
But for production, you do.
We don't require it, but we recommend it. It's better that you do. To have something at least in that final state, or for folks to be able to see something, to see an example, a sample of what they're, but we don't require it. For post production, we do.
Okay, we have a question here. Can the project can be in Spanish language or any other language, or should they be in English?
We fund projects primarily that are in English, but we have also funded many projects that are have been all in Spanish. If you're going to do a project in Spanish, you have to have subtitles for it the entire way. The films that are done completely in Spanish tend to have maybe a little bit harder placement within the system. So that's important to note. But that doesn't mean we shy away from funding projects in Spanish. I've seen POV has, which is one of the main strands on PBS that showcases the work from independents, has done a great job of carrying films and curating films that are all in Spanish with English subtitles. So you would have to do that. Independent Lens has also showcased a lot of work that way. Again, Adriana can speak to this as well. Her film now is primarily in Spanish, and she's had to sort of incorporate, both languages, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's I think you're better off. It's true that Independent Lens. It is true that major series in PBS do take projects that are captioned, that have subtitles, and that they're made in their original language. And but honestly, you know, the more English, the better. And that's the hard reality. And I think, you know, that's an unfortunate reality, but it's what it is. I, for example, did the, I have Lezama's letters. I translated them and I had them read in English because, so that gave, you know, the core of my project an English projection. And the narration is also in English. I didn't have the letters read in Spanish because I felt then that would turn it into sort of a foreign project. And I have a lot of people who speak Spanish in the show that and people who spoke English but were more comfortable in Spanish, and I let them speak Spanish because there is nothing worse than having to than having somebody in English,
right?
You know, having somebody embarrass themselves in English in
Right.
front of a camera, or not being able to express the full richness of what they want to say because they don't have.
I also think keeping those interviews in Spanish makes it more authentic, you know, and that's what I like about it. You know, it feels more real.
But I did translate the letters, and the letters were translated simply because I wanted to give the film an English projection. This film is in English with Spanish subtitles when it needs to be. I didn't make it in Spanish. I could have opted to make it in Spanish, but I didn't. And I don't think that was the wrong decision. And I do think that you know, our viewers are not that used to subtitles. Let's just be, you know, I mean, I think we have to be frank about these things. And as much as we would like to be, you know, genuine and authentic and speak in our own voice, sometimes we have to make those concessions to PBS, and that's just the way it is. I mean, what can I say? It's
okay. There's a question also. If can you shoot with LPB funds? Can you shoot with outside of the state of United States?
Yes, you know, we have funded many films that have been shot outside the United States. You know, from you know, Mexico, Central America, Latin America, and the Caribbean. I know Adriana had shot some of the footage in Cuba, or she had a team in Cuba shoot for her. You know, and that's a you know, a great example. And I know that was not easy to do, but she managed to you know, to get that done.
I shot as much as I could in Cuba.
Yeah.
And,
so you know, we don't have a problem with people having to shoot. You know, but you have to budget for it, and that's important to also you know, include. And that's going to be travel and, you know, shooting in location and finding a team to do that. So you just want to make sure that you're including all of that within your budget and what the production plan is.
Okay, and there's someone else that wants to know a little bit more about the funds for short films, for the media content fund.
So through the Public Media Content Fund, again, we're funding you know, short narrative and documentary work. I mean, it could be singular, you know, short stories that would be like one-offs for, you know, that we would offer to PBS, or it can be, you know, digital series that you know, that you're working on and that you think may work well for an online audience. And with an online audience, the PBS online audience is a much younger audience than what their the broadcast side of the PBS audience is. So you know, it's great to, you know, to have younger a younger skewing theme or topic, but it, you know, it can still be universal at the same time. And again, you know, we're looking at projects that are 20 minutes or less. The average person online watches a piece of media for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then they drop off. So, you know, we don't want projects that are that are over 20 minutes because of that. But it can be a series of different things. And PBS is also venturing more into that side of things with what they call PBS Digital Studios, and they've been producing quite a bit of content for what they like to call more of a YouTube type of audience. But again, we've showcased different stories that range from different themes like bullying to LGBT issues to dealing with immigration issues and at the border, and also elderly issues. Filmmakers have been finding ways to tell those stories through short narrative work, and that's been exciting. And the funds usually, we allow for people to apply up to $25,000 to support that project.
Okay, guys, gente, pueden seguir preguntando, hagan preguntas, y entonces en la libertad de preguntar lo que quieran. Okay, I have a question. For example, in the case of a Feliciano documentary, in which of these two film funds does it apply? Could someone apply? Because if I'm not wrong, the public media, the current issues fund is for social issues.
Right.
Can you explain?
I think if it's more of an arts-driven project, if it's a historical project,
It's regular.
I think you're going to apply to the Public Media Content Fund. If it's more of a science project or health issue, health can also go both ways, because we funded a film about the contaminated water situation that's happening in Mexico, and it was very related to what was happening in Flint. So that became a current issue. But there's things that we're dealing with the environment that could also be under the umbrella of science. But yes, I would say those are going to be more towards the Public Media Content Fund.
And good
in that case, they will have to be short.
I didn't hear you. Could you repeat that?
Yes, that in that case, if it's Public Media Content Fund, then it will have to be a short film.
No, so on the Public Media Content Fund, we fund long form documentary. Actually, we fund also 30-minute slots for broadcast. So it's we're looking at projects that are going to be have potential for broadcast that are primarily long form documentary films that are repurposed for television, and we also fund short digital content for online. So it's two different options.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. One more question here. Okay, Berenice, one of our members asked, LPB has the rights of distribution in public television and social media in USA, and their territories for 4 years.
Yes.
Do you have restrictions of distribution in Mexico and Canada, and what kind? Can you show your film in festivals? And can you make a tour with your films? Can you sell it to universities or schools? Did you get that?
I'll try to answer everything in that question.
Can you see the question?
Yeah, I can. So I'm going to try.
Yes, you can follow the question then.
So in exchange for the funding you receive from us, you're signing a licensing agreement which gives us the rights to your film to distribute on public media and through PBS. However, it's only a licensing agreement, so you are the copyright owner. You have ownership. Once the licensing period is done, all the rights return back to you. The standard term for funding that comes from us and the rest of the public funders and public television is usually 4 years. And so after the 4 years, then the rights revert back to the copyright owner. For digital media, it's 3 years, or for online media, it's 3 years, and it's a 1 year exclusive window for digital media with a 2 year non-exclusive window. So it's shorter because it's, I think, less of an investment. And the rights are for U.S. domestic television rights. So you cannot have the film offered to any other television entity within the United States or its territories, including Spanish language television. But in terms of other places that you can take it outside of the domestic television arena, you're okay. So you can showcase it at festivals. You can do the festival circuit. You can, if you get offered a theatrical release, you can also have that window created. We do have a 90-day holdback in Canada, where that does not allow you to broadcast the film for the 90 days after your initial broadcast date in the U.S. After that, you can do anything you want, and within the rest of the U.S., the rest of the world, you have the right to exploit the film and get the different deals for different markets that you want. So we are open to that. I think I answered everything. Education, and you do have you can do an educational tour as well with the film, and have an educational distribution deal that's separate, and that is outside of the broadcast television rights that we ask for. So you're free to also search for that and exploit those rights as well.
Then we have Margaret asking, regarding the short film fund, the $25,000 are for production or also for development?
For the short films, we are looking to support production, and we want to support projects that are ready to get done and would be done within a year.
Okay. And right now for development, what do you have for development in this cycle of funding?
You can apply for R&D funds for up to $25,000. That's the cap we put on research and development funds.
That's in the case of someone that's making a feature film.
Right.
A feature documentary.
That's
Yes.
what I mean.
Or-
Documentary, yes.
I mean, feature meaning anything above not 90 minutes, right, Luis? I mean, feature meaning anything up to 60, right? Or a television
It can
show,
be. We usually think of a feature, anything beyond 60 and above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Luis, one question I have for you that I think maybe is of interest to everyone. What are the rules for streaming? I mean, versus broadcast. When can you offer your show to a streaming service that will broadcast domestically?
Well, so right now, as the landscape is changing with regards to the broadcast, we're looking for a streaming window that comes with the broadcast. It'll begin 90 days from the date that the film is released or broadcast within the U.S. After those 90 days, you are free to do outside deals for streaming. And that could be all the way from Netflix to Amazon, or any other entity that's out there, offering streaming. And we've had, many different films that have secured those deals outside of PBS.
Okay,
And
so
I know
just a
PBS
90
is
day,
also
it's just a
offering their
90
own
day,
distribution.
just a 90-day waiting period. That's it.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to change. Some people want a smaller window, and sometimes PBS will ask for longer windows. So I think it's negotiable. But right now, the average is 90 days that we're trying to go for.
Okay. Okay, from a dog they say, thank you very much, Erika Alarcón, Luis Ortiz, and Adriana Bosch. Maybe it's time to finish if you guys have...
No, I think that you know, that was a nice conversation. So,
Yeah.
you know, and a good one. And I hope that it's helpful to everybody. You have about a month to, you know, prepare your proposal if you're planning to submit and send it in to us, and it's all, you know, can all be done online. But I just would like to thank, you know,
if we have doubts about our projects, can we reach you and
you can email
the process of submitting
you can email me or Erika if you have any questions in regards to the process or any issues. Feel free to email us.
Okay, perfect. Sounds perfect.
And Luis, one question is the same application. It's the Documentary Core app for development and for production. They're not separate applications, correct?
Yes.
Okay, it's the Documentary Core. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, what Adriana is mentioning is the core application requirement that has been put out by the International Documentary Association. For those that don't know, you know, we're all trying to adhere to an application that is usable by all organizations, so that, you know, filmmakers don't have to continue to rewrite their proposal every time, and you know, can submit essentially the same proposal with some changes here or there, but we're all trying to make it easier for filmmakers to be able to submit, and that's the core application requirement set by the IDA.
I have a final question, if you don't mind.
Yes.
For example, let's say that I submit a project to Latino Public Broadcasting, and in the process I submit a project to someone else, and I get the funds that I was asking you from another fund. Do I have to renounce? Do I have to leave behind those funds from Latino Public Broadcasting, or
I think it all depends on who the funding is from, and, you know, what entity we're talking about. If you know, if it's another, you know, foundation or you know, other public television funder, we usually don't have a problem with that. And you can also request, you know, production funds, development funds, completion funds from multiple people, and really you're going to have to, because it's sort of you know,
not going to be enough. Yeah.
Right, making the rounds and piecing all of the different funds together to find your total project budget, and we all have to work together. However, if you get funding from a commercial entity that requires rights to broadcast the film commercially, then that becomes a problem for us, because we need the rights, exclusive rights for public television, and that could be a conflict, and we've seen that happen before.
Okay. Okay. Well, guys, I think we're done, right? Erika, thank you very much. Luis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank Adriana too for joining us and participating
my pleasure.
and sharing your expertise with this community.
But I have to say that, you know, for you who are listening, and Erika, you know, I don't know exactly. I don't know you as well as I do know Luis, but I hate to do this to Luis, but I have to say it. Luis knows everything. So anything you need to know, any questions you have, take it from me. You get in touch with Luis, and Luis will have an answer. And that I think is his glory and his burden. But he is very helpful, and when he will tell you exactly what it is, because he really knows this, the funding world and everything else inside out.
Thank you, Adriana. Well, I appreciate that.
And you don't, take me.
Erica is also, on her way, and she will also be, the experts as well.
Okay.
So,
Erica,
I appreciate
that. Adriana, I'm going to speak in Spanish now. La Asociación de Documentalistas tenemos un programa casi semanal, estamos haciéndolo en línea, como se llama Conéctate a Adoc. Y entonces lo que hacemos es que una persona entrevista a un cineasta y queremos invitarte en algún momento para hacer tu
maravilloso, para mí sería maravilloso hacer eso, definitivamente.
Okay. Pues
yo tengo mucha comunión con ustedes.
Es cuestión, Luis, yo creo entonces pues, de facilitar el contacto a Llaima para que lo podamos coordinar para algún momento. Y nada, it has been a pleasure for me. Thank you very much, guys, to be there and keep doing the good job as you're doing for so long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, we're finished.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.